everyone, Thomas here and welcome back to another video. So today we're back here for another speed build, and today we're going to go ahead and create this modern island mansion. So if you'd like to go ahead and download this for yourself, it is up on the gallery now. My origin ID is RealThomasTV1, and there will also be a link in the description to the online gallery if you want to go ahead and download the build that way. So even though I called this a modern island mansion, the word mansion I wasn't really too sure about because this is actually only on a 40 by 30 lot, and I've had this kind of discussion a few times within voiceovers about like what do you class as mansions, because I know some people go by lot size, so like, you know, a 50 by 50 or 64 by 64, which I used to do, but then sometimes I look at it in terms of like bedroom number. So in today's build we've got 5 bedrooms and 7 bathrooms. And all the bedrooms have double beds, meaning that there is actually space for 10 Sims, but you can actually only have 8 Sims in a household. So that means there's more than enough space for a full household here, so you could look at, in that sense, as this being a mansion as well. So today, you know, it is on this side, you know, the smaller side. I guess we could just call it a mini mansion for today. And actually, the reason why it's a 40 by 30 lot is, well, it's a reason for doing such a small build today. I'll come to that in a minute. But first of all, a few more details about the build. So like I said, it's on a 40 by 30, 5 bedrooms, 7 bathrooms. I built it on the island of the island of Windenburg, and it's actually where the Bichon, however that household is, the one with the Claire and Clara, but I can't even think their names, Bichon and Clara, I think it is, that household. And that's where the word island comes from in the title, from being on the Windenburg Island. I didn't want to do it in Solani though, because I didn't really want to go for a tropical kind of theme. I just wanted to go for more like a traditional kind of modern looking one, and I felt like that fits better into this part of Windenburg, which kind of goes well with modern builds. And then in terms of what packs I used today, for the expansions I used all of them apart from Get to Work, and then for the game packs I used Parenthood, Dynamite and Spa Day, and for the stuff packs I used Laundry Day and Perfect Patio. So there is a lot of expansions there, but I didn't really use too many game packs or stuff packs. I did try to restrict myself where I could today, but there are still a few more packs used today than what I normally do, because as you know, these days I do try to restrict my packs where I can, but even doing that, you know, there is still a few more than you know, normal here. But if you don't have Island Living, that's totally fine, because that's one of the packs here I would say that isn't really necessary, because I did just use 1 or 2 items from there, being a chair, just like an armchair. I think it's in one of the bedrooms if I'm not mistaken, and I don't know, I might see it as we go through the speed build. And also the skylights, the crystal clear items, I use those on the roof. So those are the only 2 items I use from that pack. So I was going to remove that pack because it's, you know, as I say, I do look at the packs, see which items are like on the lower end. So if a pack is only being used twice, like 2 items from that pack, I'll just remove it. But in this case, I really wanted to include these items here, these little skylight things, so I had to include Island Living today. But yeah, so if you don't have that pack, then really it's totally fine. Anyway, so in terms of what I was saying before about it being on a 40 by 30, I have actually had a really busy week. I've had so many things going on, just lots of stress. So I've been kind of a little bit behind on videos, which I never be, you know, well, it sometimes happens, but I just never like to be like that because it's always adds unnecessary stress. So I always like to be ahead of schedule where I can. So I actually didn't start this mansion build until yesterday, which I would never do. Mansions, even though they don't take me that long, I always tend to start them on a Wednesday. Like that's when I usually like to start them, like Wednesday, Thursday. So, you know, they normally only take me about 2 hours to do, but, you know, so why would I start them that early? Well, there is still, it's sort of like, it's really weird to explain, but even though they don't take me that long, there's still like that thought in my brain of like, I've got a mansion to work on. And even though that there is that factor of it not taking that long, still in my brain, the fact that I've got a, like, you know, a mansion to work on, having that thought in my brain still makes it a bit daunting sometimes. So I really kind of have to split it up over a long time, if that makes sense. So that's why I try to spread it out as much as I can, just to make it really easy and I don't really have to stress about it. So considering that I started it on a Saturday when this has to be up today, Sunday, that was, you know, a big mistake for me. But I just haven't had much motivation this week. I've been kind of on a little bit of a burnout, which hasn't really happened in a while. And it's funny because I've noticed this has happened to a lot of people this week as well. Like on Twitter, I just noticed a lot of other people who create content have said the same thing. So I don't know what it's to do with. Maybe it's because like well, I presume university's coming soon. I hope it is. So maybe it's the fact that, you know, we're in a little bit of a content drought at the minute, waiting for a new pack. Maybe that's to do with it. I presume that could be why, but you know, we'll just have to wait and see. But I'm hoping that it'll kind of pass, because it's not really a nice thing to be in. But I don't really get it too often, so I'm hoping that'll pass soon. But anyway, so I've also had some other kind of troubles this week as well with my editing software. I do use Sony Vegas, and I was actually trying to edit a video the other day. And it isn't up yet, so next week. It's a different kind of video, actually. I don't know when it's going up, though. But anyway, so I was working on this video, and I was trying to render it, and for some reason, it just was keep crashing and crashing and crashing. I don't know if anybody else uses Sony Vegas, but it is kind of well known for crashing. But I've never really had it this bad before. So I had to try so many different things. I was looking at different forums and troubleshooting things, and had to change my settings like 1,000,001 times to try and make it work, and it finally worked. But yeah, it was just been very stressful. So I had all that, and then I had all this trouble. And it's funny because when I came to take the screenshots for this build as well, I had this thing that popped up on my screen on my actual game saying the game save failed to load, and then that like a really long error code. I don't know if you've seen it before, but it was really scary because I hadn't saved this build to the gallery yet, and I was really scared that I'm going to lose the build because I had all the footage and everything, but I hadn't taken any screenshots, so I couldn't really at that point even make a video from it. So I was getting really worried, but I managed to make it work. I don't know if anybody makes like videos and stuff, but when you take the screenshots, and if you use MC Command Center to change the time to kind of get like a good sort of time of day for the sun shining on the build, well, I use that a lot. And if you don't know, when you do that, or even if you use it for gameplay as well, it really messes up your Sims needs. Like, they go all over the place, like your Sims will go off to work and come back, and all these sort of things will happen. And in this household, the Sims actually had a baby, and the baby kept going away, like being taken away because it hadn't been fed because of the time difference keep changing, and then it would stay there though. And I think that had something to do with the game save, because it kept going away and coming back. I don't know what was happening, but just been a huge big mess of things going on this week, and I'm just glad it's the weekend now and everything's over, and that's this build is finally finished. But anyway, so we're just working on the living rooms here. For a change, we haven't really talked much about the build today, but there's actually 2 living rooms in today's build. So we've got this one here, and then you walk across the walkway to the other one. It's just a little bit bigger, got a few more things in it. And I know that's kind of a classic thing for me to do, where I do that little walkway bridge thing to a separate room, like connected to the side of the house. I know I do that a lot. In the last couple of builds, I have tried to stop doing it, because I know I do it in pretty much every build, and I have had a few people tell me that it's kind of like a classic Thomas TV thing to do in builds. But since I haven't done the last couple of builds, I thought I included today, so I did that. And I did kind of was thinking as I was doing this build, would I class this as a mansion? Because I was going to maybe just do this as another build for like another day, and like upload it on one of my other upload days, because it is a, you know, smaller build. But then again, I was thinking I never have really missed a Sunday mansion build before, and I didn't really want to start doing that now because of me making a mistake in terms of lot size. So I hope you don't mind today of this being on a smaller size, but you know, I'll try and make up for it next week or something. And you know, some weeks I do really, I do 2 mansions, so you know, that sometimes makes up for it as well if one's a smaller one. Anyway, so we've got a big kitchen down there, as you can see. And I went for a pretty neutral colour scheme. I kind of, as you can see as well on the exterior in terms of the outdoor furniture, I did use red as like a kind of the sort of pop of colour of choice, I suppose, in some areas. So some of the outdoor furniture has red. Also some of the ceiling lights have red in them as well, like in the kitchen. So I did that in areas just to kind of add a little bit of pop of colour from all the monochrome, because I do a lot of monochrome when it comes to modern builds. I feel like it's a good colour scheme that kind of works well for modern builds, so I did that here. And also in today's build, I didn't do any kids' rooms. All the bedrooms are neutral today. I know that's something I used to do a lot, and I still do it a lot. Well, I did it in today's build as well. But I have been recently trying to do a lot more kids' rooms, because I know people like to see that, and you know, it can get a little bit repetitive when you do neutral rooms all the time. But in the last couple of builds, I have done a lot of kids' rooms, so I thought today I would go back to kind of how I normally do for a change, and just do a lot of neutral rooms, since the last couple of builds haven't had that. And also as well, I feel like for modern builds as well, not doing kids' rooms, if that makes sense, fits really well. Like, because I have all this like really modern chrome sort of looking build, and then to have a really fun colourful kids room doesn't always fit the theme that well of the build. So for today's build, I just decided to leave that out. But if you download this build and you do have kids in your household, obviously feel free to change up one of the rooms to fit their personality a bit better if you want to do that. But since all the bedrooms are fairly neutral, and what I normally do is you know, I have the bed, the 2 bedside tables with a lamp on it, a picture above the bed, and that's it. I did try to switch it up where I could today as well in terms of the layout of the bedrooms. So as you can see here, I'm putting a console table behind the bed instead of bedside tables, and then I'm using wall sconces instead of bedside table lamps, and just putting a few clutter items around, just as something a little bit different, just to kind of switch it up from the traditional layout as I normally have when it comes to neutral bedrooms, which I think is totally fine. You know, it looks normal how everything, you know, what it looks like in real life, but sometimes, you know, when you're doing builds a lot and doing so many builds a week, and, you know, I like to do neutral rooms a lot as well, it can get a little bit repetitive, so I did try to switch it up in terms of layout of the bedrooms today where I could. It's not, you know, a huge massive difference, but just in terms of like using, like I was just saying, instead of using bedside table lamps, I'll use wall sconces above the beds instead of lamps. Does that make sense? So we're just working and put a few items in this room here. Again, there isn't any personality to this room. I suppose there could be, but I didn't really think of that as I was building it. I just kind of switched up the colours a little bit as I went. Now, there is one room that I maybe see is geared more towards a teen boy, but it doesn't really have to be. It was just as I was building it, if that's something that you may be looking for in terms of thinking of ideas for what Sims may live here. This one right here I would probably say would be for a teen boy, but, you know, I didn't really think of that as I was building it. It just kind of has that, maybe, you know, a little bit of an idea towards it. And this room does actually have a balcony on it as well. And there's a bar and a hot tub on there as well, so maybe there's like a spoilt teen that lives here and they have like their own balcony area where they have parties with their friends and stuff. That could maybe be a storyline for the sim that lives in this room. And also, you saw there with that rug, I actually used another carpet tile and just kind of changed it up in using a carpet tile instead of a rug. I've done that before and I've seen other people do it. I just thought it'd be a change, because sometimes it's hard to find a rug that matches, and also like sizing down rugs, they don't always match up to the size of the area that you want it to fit it in, if that makes sense as well. Even with adjusting the size of the item, it doesn't always work, so I had to do that there just for a change. I think it looked kind of nice. And this is another bedroom here, again fairly neutral. I would say that this room is a little bit more on the traditional side. I was aware of that sometimes as I was going throughout this build, that some of the bed choices I was choosing were a little bit more traditional than modern, so I did have to change it around a couple of times as I went, but I did leave this a little bit more on the traditional side, I would say, and also one other bedroom as well. I think the one that has a similar colour scheme to this is also, I think it's the last one we work on, has a similar kind of more traditional theme to it, but it does also have aspects of modern. So you can see there that that room, it kind of has a traditional theme to it, but it has a modern fireplace and modern bedside table. So if a room does have a traditional aspect to it, it does also have a modern thing to kind of balance it out as well. Because I've noticed that's like a flaw of mine when it comes to modern builds, is that I always end up, when it comes to doing the furnishing, is that there will be a point within the furnishing that I will end up going back to more of like a family sort of, you know, suburban style traditional kind of furnishing within one of the rooms for some reason. I don't know why that is. It's probably been so used to doing, you know, that kind of, like I was just saying, family homes and suburban homes all the time, that I kind of forget that I'm doing a modern build. That's probably got something to do with it. But anyway, so we're just working on another room here. This one does have a study in. There is actually a huge study room downstairs, as you would have saw. It's actually got the same wallpaper to this one as you would have saw downstairs, to the right hand side of the front door. And there's also in the study room, it's kind of got like a sort of like a living room within it as well, I would say. It's got a fireplace, another little seating area in it. There's also a back door area within that study room downstairs too, to get to the back porch area. And the back porch area, it just actually, it's like sort of like the balconies above it, and that kind of covers the porch, if that makes sense. And it's not really a wraparound porch, but it is kind of like a half wraparound porch. And also the pool is kind of like on a foundation, and it kind of flows into the porch as well, as you would have saw. And there's also like an actual backyard area too, which I just put a few things in. I did actually do like a slight off the grid theme to it, not really that noticeable though, just with the laundry, in terms of putting a laundry kind of washing bucket outside and a washing line. And I did that outside because I thought, you know, being on the island, you might want to, you know, play more of the off the grid style, so I did do that. The backyard area is really simple. I didn't really do too much with it though, as you can see there. And also I did a few kind of gardening things, so a few planter boxes, the can't speak, I can't think of the name, the plant arrangement table from Seasons. I did also go ahead and put that in on one of the balconies. And now we're just working on the last living room area here. So this room, again, is just a secondary living room. Nothing too special about it. It's just a bigger space, really. And that's the last room that we'll work on today. So I really hope you enjoyed. In the comment section down below, let me know about what you thought of this build. If you have any more suggestions for other builds or anything else that you want to see on the channel next, that'd be really helpful to hear. You can go ahead and download this build from the gallery. My origin ID is RealThomasTV1, and there will also be a link in the description to the online gallery if you want to go ahead and download the build that way. Make sure to leave a like, share and subscribe if you haven't, and I'll see you all next time. Bye!